Freaking nailed it. Yeah, I'm going to LARP a little bit, but I'm just going to mainly do it for educational purposes, just talk about what I was seeing, dive a little bit more into why that's what I was looking for. Because much to my satisfaction, actually, I saw some pretty big traders yesterday saying that we were going to gap down because they were basically touting the market on close volume imbalance that was majorly to the sell side, and they were saying that it was like heavy. It was basically a lot of selling, and they were basically saying like, oh yeah, here we go, gap down. In reality, what we know from this market, especially with tech earnings this week, I was like, this is a perfect opportunity for the market to squeeze them out once again. Basically, the name of this game for this market has just been to endlessly crucify early shorts that are trying to time the top until those guys are literally left with half their accounts, if that. And then the market will likely start turning around and start giving out a solid sell side. But let's talk about, what I was looking for. I was on ES. If you watched the last video after Friday close, I was looking for selling starting in the Globex Open on Sunday into Monday. So we did see some selling, but still buying. It wasn't like a massive sell-off or anything. That would have been way more convincing. But there was some heavy sells, and it was just based on, I think there was talks of, there was some missiles fired at American boats, but then there was debate on if they hit them or not, or even if that was true. Again, like this, don't be surprised to see stuff like that when it's news cycle stuff like that. This is pretty big market manipulation. It'll have to be a very, what would you say, corroborated report on something huge like boots on the ground for, I think, it to be a valid, news cycle candle to sell, basically, and to not get bought up at this point. I do believe we're getting very close to that point, but we're just not quite there yet. So I was looking for, bait sellers and shorts put buyers on Monday, and then a squeeze overnight. And I was saying it was likely going to be because of tech earnings. Also, as far as ISM services PMI, came out relatively in line, slightly less than forecast, but nothing to call home about. And then new home sales, there's actually a little bump in new home sales. And again, you can interpret that in so many ways. You can also say, why are more people selling their homes right now? Are they hurting for cash? Like, can they not afford the interest rates, etc.? Job openings relatively in line, so whatever. That was all nothing burger. But I actually just saw AMD was a huge beat. They're American semiconductors, so that's not really a surprise. There's still a demand for essentially the shovels in the gold rush, which is semiconductors and chip makers in this AI rush. What really will be the downturn for earnings will be the AI companies themselves, some of these Mag 7s, trying to justify their CapEx spend and showing how it's going to start to produce some serious revenue, because right now it's just a money pit of investment. But so far, the anticipation for these good tech earnings turned into a squeeze overnight. You can go on my Twitter if you want to see proof, but I took a long on NQ because I was more bullish on tech than anything. I waited for basically confirmation from ES, and I took a long on NQ for almost 200 points. So it was a pretty solid trade. I just exited literally because I wanted to go to bed and not have to dream about my position or if it was okay or not. I could just sleep calmly and quietly. Anyways, so we have on Monday closes. Here were some signs that we would have had to gap down for this to been valid. Essentially, anything opening above these lows was not valid. We dug in a little deeper than I was thinking. I did say I was hoping that 72.12 would hold, and there was a big dump again. I think this is just end of the day-ish. I can't remember. Or no, that was, I think, the news. Again, more stuff with Iran, and so it dumped all the way down to 7,200. I was looking for essentially the 7,200s to hold. It went all the way down to 7,200. I was looking for the 72.12 buyer, and immediately after that dump finished up, you see all these trap sellers right here immediately get rebalanced and dunked on by this buyer, which starts around 72.09. So that kind of was valid for what I was hoping for. The wicks do a lot of damage in this case, so that's why you don't want to set like limit orders around there if you're looking for a level to hold. Excuse me. You want to see how a buyer interacts with it when price sells through there. So yeah, that was a great look. I wasn't trading it all Monday. I had a nice trade Sunday night, so it was fine. But yeah, they're rebalanced, and then we open around the same level and we just hold. We're not dipping below 72.12. So in my mind, I'm looking long. I'm looking for the squeeze that I was talking about. And sure enough, Asia Open, I'll zoom in a little bit here so we can dig into the nitty gritty of why I took the trade in Asia and why I held through, what other traders were calling a lot of chop. It was really, to me, just a slow grind up. That is usually how a squeeze starts. It starts as a slow grind up, and you see a failure of one side to initiate any new lows or highs, depending on what side they are, you know what I mean? So yeah, we see ES on Asia Open, so that's a key open. It makes a 5-minute SMT, so that is part of my strategy right there. Key open SMT. I marked it out. The full extent of this move I had going all the way to 72.76, I think, something like that. And I didn't even hold for that long, again, just because it was the middle of the night. I live in Canada and I was tired, so I wanted to go to bed. But I held for a good chunk and yeah, made a good portion. But yeah, here's building my confidence right here in this trade to hold it. Building the confidence in there being a squeeze, right? So you see initial move up. I'm eventually going to switch to NQ because this is what my trade was on. So you see we move up into 72.40s. That's a big pivot. I think that was Thursday close of last week. And yeah, so that's a big pivot. There's a lot of volume around that area. So sellers are looking to hold below. You see kind of one attempt there. You see a lot of sells there into the lows, 72.36. And look at even here, you see these aggressive sells that just have no continuation. So I'm starting to see aggressive sells have no continuation. They have no ability to make new lows. That is starting to prep my mind. As soon as I see this level hold and I see this SMT hold and I see a push up, looking at NQ now, I see a push up. My entry was 773. I see a push up. I see sellers attempt to rebalance. We're in the initial balance of Asia Open. So I'm looking at kind of the first hour-ish or at least half hour. I'm seeing that hold. I take an entry right here and it gets retested once and then continues up. And I even said in the chat, I said, tech squeeze tonight, watch it. And that was right around where I entered. Yeah, so on ES, it was very apparent there. You have, just aggressive sells that fail to make any new lows. They fail to continue that move. So right now I'm thinking squeeze. So yeah, switching over to NQ. I think this is around that same area on NQ. Again, aggressive sells, no new lows immediately. So there's someone, big pockets just with limit orders, just scooping. Every time sellers think they might be able to take this down to new lows and make a move, a buyer is just absorbing and then grinding it up to a high where you see maybe some stop outs or you see some aggressive buys, and then a seller takes it down a little bit. Seller starts to build some confidence. Again, trying to make, they just barely tag a new low there, but like just the wick, no actual strong close for a new low, and you see aggressive sell into there and no continuation after that, and then immediate rebalance and push up. We push back above this previous big buy right here. And so at this point at around the 840s, when we start to reclaim and hold 840s, I am pretty confident that we're squeezing. I just don't know how high it's going to squeeze. And then, because sometimes you might get an overnight squeeze, you'd see a hold just before New York session, and then you'll see a dip down, maybe a fast dip down below London or something, and then New York will push it up. In this case, it just squeezed higher and higher and higher until we got to the New York session, which literally just these are your ultimate squeezes where it just continues to grind up all the way, and then New York opens, and it is like the most minimal downside on the 9:30 open, and just immediately continues pushing higher. And sellers, of course, try pushing down from there, chopping it around. We just hit 28K, so that's a big level that was acting as resistance. And yeah, this is again tech. This is earnings. A lot of call volume, probably squeezing this thing higher and higher. And yeah, you just see, to me, as this was going up overnight, I was just imagining all the swing futures players that had gotten in maybe Friday or even Sunday with that sell, and we're hoping to hold the sell like all week, and maybe they were trying to aggressively add to their sells, and just no luck basically. And they got pushed out. So everyone got squeezed heavy around New York Open. You see basically a lot of aggressive sells just get absolutely murked, and they have to buy back higher. Are we? Yeah, we're almost into Globex of Tuesday, so we'll start digging into the Asia session soon. But what I am anticipating is pretty simple. So I saw this happen. Oops, this is Monday. So Monday again, initial balance. So good thing to write or to show projections off of. So we're gonna go to the 5-minute. Again, I'm going back to yes because this is where I'm mapping everything out. Tech is going to be a lot more exasperated because of earnings and stuff. I really don't know how high tech could go, and for NQ, I really have no idea. But for ES, it is less volatile, more volume, more players in the game. So yeah, I marked out this small little swing high right here, right before lunch hour, which if you've listened before to what we talked about, I now include because there's so many big news events that happen during lunch hour. There's so much manipulation that happens during lunch hour because of the lower volume, that it's a good play. I now treat it as a key open. So we have lunch hour here. This is this tiny little swing high, that happens right before lunch hour opens, and this was actually news again. This is more stuff about Iran, can't remember, blah, 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 whatever. So manipulates lower, and we manipulate. This whole time, you can look at this as still a manipulation like an SMT, because these lows right here have not been breached on NQ. So any new low that is made on ES below those lows that is still not breaching the same lows on NQ, you can count that as, there's your SMT. That's a huge SMT. So that is, it's sequential. So that's a great one to mark it off of. And especially when we get a move like this out of it, to me, that means that this is a valid roadmap. So I marked that out. Let's just make sure it's really precise. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So I marked that out. So this is now I have this projection before from a deeper manipulation on a larger scale, I guess I would say, a larger manipulation overall. And I mapped out what I was looking at. I was looking for this initial rejection, 7,300 initial rejection, check. Then I was looking for more of a finisher move to be around 73.24. Oops. And so we still haven't gone there yet, but that was part of my, I don't believe these highs. I believe we need to come up once more. This was not a type of rejection that you look for. This was not a strong selling close. It should have closed way down there if that was going to be a top over here. So the way it closed, I was like, no, we're going to bait. We're going to come back up. We're going to retest 73.24 area. And now I can be even a little bit more precise based off of this manipulation. I will be looking specifically. I'll still start it at 73.24. I'll still be looking for absorption, but let's say 73.24 comes in Asia or even London. Okay, so I expect to see a strong rejection, like somewhere around there, 73.24, 73.30. But let's say that comes during those sessions. From what I've seen about, with tops, bottoms, they occur during New York. So New York always gets the last laugh. They get the bottom, they get the top. So if that happens and it happens in the wrong session, I might still take a scalp from it, but I will be looking for New York to then maybe come up all the way up to here, this 4.5 right here, 73.47. So basically my range is from 73.24 all the way to, that's a terrible one, 73.24 all the way to, that's not much better, 73.47. So this area right here is where I'm looking for a macro seller to appear. And obviously I want it to hit in the right session. I don't want it to hit too soon going to Globex. I have no interest in trading this Globex or this Asia session. We just had a huge extended move. What is likely to happen is we have a lot of choppy until we get maybe a manipulation, which I'm hoping for to happen in New York session, and then that'll be the high to sell. So I'll be looking for, this will be ideally just maybe a little bit more of a grind up, maybe something, you know, kind of like that, and then up, down, like that. And then from there, for me to know this sell is real, it's going to have to be fairly one-sided. You know, I'll see, you'll see a struggle initial at the top of a lot of buying, but if this seller is real, they're going to grind their way through that, and then the floodgates are going to open, and this, like, all of this should be taken. Whether it comes all the way back down during Wednesday, and then we get a little bit of a rebalance period overnight, and then Thursday continues down below 7170 is what I want to see. Or, you know, even more so if there's mega news or something and we just see a freaking limit down day, you know, 5% or something. I don't know. We'll see. But that is the level that I'm looking for the music to stop on this rally and for a seller to really make his mark. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I wanted to keep this video fairly short today, but yeah, that was some insight into the overnight squeeze and why I was reading it as a squeeze and why I was holding my trade and not trying to take any shorts to the downside. And yeah, what my outlook is for kind of midweek this week. Again, things change. I'll always adjust to what I see on the tape, but for now, that's the way it's looking. Everything's lining up. So yeah, take care. Good luck. Bye.